progress.
Welcome back to the Crash Course Podcast. My name is CraigCrash Collins, joined as always by Brandon Scott, otherwise known as B. Scott. We've got a lot to get to tonight. Our NFL preview, the third and final football preview in as many weeks. We, of course, did the Indiana college football one. We did the regular college football one, and now the NFL season is about to kick off. It'll kick off on Thursday with the Bucs and the Cowboys.
Can we say something, though, about the Indiana one?
What's that?
I think we should start calling Indiana Indiana.
yeah,
Indiana,
whatever it was called.
Whatever it is.
Well, okay, so that's the thing. They're in Indiana until they redeem themselves for the bloodbath that occurred in Iowa City on Saturday at the hands of the Hawkeyes. That was rough. But speaking of college football, real quick before I tell you guys what else is on tap for tonight, I'm very excited, B. Scott. And, I mean, I know you are too, because coming up this weekend, we're going to be showing you guys the vlog footage from B. Scott and I going to West Lafayette this past Saturday, watching Purdue, Oregon State. It was a lot of fun. A 3C Media bro trip, a 3C Media tailgate. Really excited to get the footage from that and the prelude to what we hope will be more events like that to come.
3C Media wet T-shirt contest just because it was raining.
Yeah, we were definitely rained on quite a bit. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So be on the lookout on the 3C Media TikTok and 3C Media YouTube channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed. But yeah, we're going to be getting into the Colts preview. We're going to be getting into record predictions, sort of, for all 32 teams. We're going to be giving you where we think each team will probably end up around wins-wise. And then we'll also give you our Super Bowl predictions, our predictions for the awards, MVP, defensive and offensive player of the year, that kind of thing. So B. Scott, a lot to get into tonight as we get ready for the NFL season.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, you know me, I love football, so let's get to it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and hop right into the Indianapolis Colts preview. First of all, I want to give a shout out real quick to Haas, who did follow us at the start on Twitch, which we do stream live every week. So thank you guys for tuning in. So looking back at 2020 for the Indianapolis Colts, they were 10th. On offense, they were 10th in yards per game, 9th in points per game. They passed for 253 yards per game, which was 11th in the league. They were 11th also in rushing yards per game with 125. Defensively, they were one of the best defenses in the league, 8th in yards allowed per game and 10th in points allowed per game. They did allow 242 passing yards a game, which was 20th best in the NFL, so that was definitely a weakness for them. But they did stopped the run pretty well. They were second in the league, allowing 91 yards on the ground. So as far as who they bring back, additions, they re-signed Marlon Mack, T.Y. Hilton, Xavier Rhodes, T.J. Carey, Zach Pascal, Mo Alley Cox. They signed tackles Julian Davenport and Sam Tevy. They also signed Eric Fisher. That was the big signing for the Colts to go out and get. They got
the big news is Eric Fisher just got taken off the reserve COVID list.
Yes. So everything.
I don't know if that means he's going to be He's going to be playing anytime soon, but.
Yeah, I think. It's good news all the way around, just from the standpoint of the team is starting to get healthier as we're getting ready to start off the season. It looked like there was some big-time injury concerns heading into Week 1 against the Seahawks, and now it doesn't appear to be quite as ominous. The Colts also bring back Al-Qadim Muhammad and George Odom, and the big news, they trade for quarterback Carson Wentz from the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's everybody that came back to the team who they lost. Of course, Phillip Rivers and Anthony Costanzo retired. Nico Autry signed with the Titans. Anthony Walker signed with the Browns. Justin Houston, who is not yet signed, still is out there in free agency. The Colts did not bring him back. So, of course, in the draft, that was headlined by Kwity Paye. We've also seen Sam Ehlinger, Mike Strachan. All those guys have big preseasons. So it's been kind of a typical Colts offseason. We had kind of the move or two where we're like, Chris Ballard at it again, with some other little moves sprinkled in there. And, I mean, there's not a lot in the way of additions, a lot of re-signings, but I mean, this is a Colts team that made the playoffs last year, so why not run it back?
That is true, and this team, honestly, their biggest experience, or the biggest, I guess, talent that they bring back is their run game. I mean, Jonathan Taylor just got better as the season went on, so I'm really excited to see how he plays this year. You have a healthy Marlon Mack, he's getting rounding back into shape. So I think even if Carson Wentz isn't fully ready to go, T.Y. Hilton not ready to go, I still think the Colts are going to be okay offensively. I'm really excited to see that, just because of that run game. And that sets you up to be a successful team, in my opinion. If you have a run game that can just keep pounding it, you're going to eventually tire out the defense. You can hit them over the top then, but it also keeps the opposing team's offense on the sidelines. And that's a big deal, especially in the AFC, when you have teams like the Tennessee Titans, like the Cleveland Browns, like the Kansas City Chiefs, teams that have really good offenses and in some cases, those teams can do the exact same thing to you. So having that powerful run game, I think one of the better running games in the AFC and the NFL is going to be huge for this team.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what that running game can do. I mean, when you bring back two running backs that have 1,000-yard seasons under their belt, they have one of the better offensive lines. It's what makes me really think that, like, overall this offense is going to be fine. I know there was a lot of question marks about, like, are we going to get Carson Wentz from, last year, who was not good, or are we going to get Carson Wentz from his MVP season? And it'll land right around in the middle. I mean, I don't anticipate him having an MVP caliber season. But that's what Chris Ballard has been harping on, is that it's not just about, having a franchise quarterback, it's having a good core and good team around him. And I mean, you have the offensive line that's stellar, you have a stellar running game. I mean, unfortunately, we've gotten kind of used to the Colts having to miss T.Y. Hilton for extended periods of time, so that's what is kind of rough about that.
Still wish they would go out and do something, get somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the one thing. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald's still not signed to a team. I don't think he's officially retired yet. Bring him in for a last go-around. But yeah, this Colts team is going to be fun to watch this season. So let's go ahead and get into hot or cold. And so we'll start off hot or cold with, we're going to do 2 questions about the offense, 2 questions about the defense. So we'll start it off here. Carson Wentz will be a top 15 quarterback in 2021. That for me is a hot take. Wentz has finished as a top 15 quarterback in terms of QB rating in 3 of his 5 seasons. He was 4th in 2017, 7th in 2018, and 13th in 2019. 2016 he was not. It was his rookie season. In 2020 he was not, and the Eagles were in shambles. Now, he finished 34th, so like, even there are quarterbacks that finished above him who were on just as bad teams. So there's no understating the fact that he was bad, but also, people who like to make the argument against Wentz like to just harp on Wentz, and it's like, well, especially in the NFL, it's a team thing. If the team is in shambles around him, if they literally have your predecessor, chomping at the bit to, or your successor, sorry, that's the actual term I want, chomping at the bit to get in the game, then, I mean, you're not going to play as well. And, I mean, that's not trying to make excuses for Carson Wentz. It's just stating a fact. I mean, it's just not the best situation. And so you're hoping you're going to get, obviously a better version of Wentz. The Colts have the second best offensive line, according to Pro Football Talk. An upper third rushing attack that returns Marlon Mack, and Wentz gets reunited with Frank Reich, who coached Wentz during his best NFL season. So, I mean, you've got everything kind of falling into place for Wentz to be a top 15 quarterback, and that's really all we're asking him to be is be
above average.
Be above average.
Just slightly above average.
Be in the upper echelon of the NFL as far as, the top, that cutoff.
I wouldn't even call it that. I wouldn't even call it the upper echelon.
Top half of the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess
upper echelon's like the top
8.
10%.
Yeah. And so I think, and that's all the Colts really need him to be. They don't need him to be this insane throw the ball 50 times a game. They just need him to be above a game manager, a little bit above a game manager. And just throwing it out there that Rivers, who also had ties to Frank Reich, was 13th in quarterback rating last season, and he was 17th in his final season in LA. So, I mean, he had an improvement. Wentz, I would hope he's going to be improved from 34th. And then I think his season in 2016, he was like 25th or 24th. So, like, I think with the roster he has around him, and who he's pairing with and all that stuff, I don't find any reason not to think he's going to be a top 15 quarterback in the league.
Oh yeah, I agree. This is definitely a hot take. It's gonna take an actual implosion on the entire Colts offense. I feel like for him to not be in the top 15. Like you said, even Phillip Rivers was in the top 15, and Phillip Rivers was just ultimately a game manager that made necessary throws here and there. Whereas Carson Wentz has the ability, he's a younger player first and foremost. I mean, he has the physical ability to actually make bigger passes than Phillip Rivers could. So as long as he just plays within the game plan, is a good game manager, and makes some good passes here and there, there's no reason he can't be top 15. No reason. I mean, I'm gonna say he will end the season top 10, not like high in the top 10, but like 9 or 10 around there.
Well, I mean, 10. If he's 10th, he's right on the doorstep of being like in the top 25% of the league. So I mean, that's not bad at all.
And like I said, as long as you just play within the game plan, play within the game, don't force things, I think that's a real possibility. I mean, look, Phillip Rivers was 13th. He wasn't that far off. He really was not that far off. Whereas Carson Wentz has the tools to be able to be better than 13th.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in complete agreement there. So question number 2, Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack will be the 8th running back tandem since 1972 to amass 1,000 yards. B. Scott, I got really excited about this one because I thought maybe it would happen. I mean, you've got 2 running backs who, in their last full seasons, ran for 1,000 yards. Jonathan Taylor last year, and then, of course, Marlon Mack, who missed the season due to injury. He had an 1,000-yard season back in 2019. And so I kind of looked into it a little bit more. The last team to do this was actually not too long ago, 2019. You had Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram for the Baltimore Ravens. They had
a team that couldn't pass the ball to save their lives.
Exactly. So they were just like, you know what? We're just going to run the ball. And honestly, too, because that was my first thought, is that when I saw Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram on that list, I was like, how many of those for Lamar Jackson were broken, passing plays that turned into him just? I'm not. And that's
running back tandem.
Okay, so I mean, I guess rushing duo. Rushing duo is a better way to phrase that. Sorry, but yeah. So Lamar Jackson, how many of those plays were just a broken play? He runs for 10 yards after the coverage kind of broke down or whatever it is. Or the play broke down. So that was where I was kind of concerned with, because they ran the ball that season 596 times. And so that averages out to like 37 per game. So you're rushing the ball 37 times per game. I was looking at it for the Colts. They have never averaged more than 30 rushes per game under Frank Reich. So even though the Ravens that season had the second best offensive line, which the Colts have the second best offensive line, as just mentioned in the last question, so the Colts have the tools to do that. They have the running backs, they have the offensive line. It's just that's not the play style of Frank Reich. He's not trying to tailor his offense around a rushing quarterback, which is why the Ravens ran so many times. I think the closest the Colts got to 30 rushes per game was like 29 point something. So they're not a team that runs the ball as much as the Ravens did. So as much as I think it's a possibility to have that situation where you have Mack and Jonathan Taylor rush the ball for 1,000 yards each, I'm going to say it's a cold take.
Yeah, I agree. This is a cold take just because the offense is going to be so balanced. I will go as far as to say that a running back will hit 1,000 yards rushing, and a running back could push 1,000 yards receiving.
Yeah, I believe that.
I honestly believe, hear me out, the next best slot option the Colts have, or next best speedy small guy option the Colts have after T.Y. Hilton, Nahim Hines.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could see him being or I could even see, that's going to be tough, no. But yeah, I could see, honestly, that happening. Nahim Hines having a huge year as a receiving threat.
Yeah.
Because he's one of those guys that you have to get him touches. You have to, just because of how talented he is. Every time he gets the ball in his hands, he is a threat to take it to the house. How many times did we see that the past couple of years? It's like a light switch has come on for him, and you have to get the ball in his hands. You have to figure out ways to do that. And with T.Y. Hilton out, why not? What do you have to lose? Okay, he's not the best route runner. Okay, we figure, okay, that's fine. Run simple routes for him, crossing patterns. He's a running back, for God's sake.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. With as good as Nahim is like a tertiary option, at running back. That was another reason why I was like, I don't think they're going to get to 1,000 yards each too, because I was like, you have to get him touches as well. You can't, because that would almost exclude him completely out of the offensive game plan if you're trying to get touches to both Taylor and Mack, to try to get them, to try to like do the mental gymnastics to get them both to 1,000 yards. So yeah, that takes touches away from him.
How nice is it for the Colts to have three guys that are home run threats pretty much anytime they touch the ball in the backfield? That's an embarrassment of riches.
We're used to position, it's probably akin to Joseph Adai and Dominique Rhodes, I would say.
Yeah, but
not as far as home run, not as far as home. Oh, what's that?
I'm talking about like three guys. How often do you see three?
I'm just saying as far as like the Colts having. I'm just saying as far as the Colts having more than just one threat.
Right.
And
that's a good thing, because it is no longer just one running back being Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry's built just built different.
He is.
If you wanted him to play defensive tackle, he'd probably be a Pro Bowler. Let's just be honest. That's a beast of a man right there. But having having running back by committee and all three of them potentially, being star running back. I can't really put Nahim Hines in that category. Marlon Mack was knocking on the door, and Jonathan Taylor is knocking on the door. Nahim Hines is a niche running back, but a very talented niche running back. And unfortunately, he's like a utility man. There it is. He's a utility man. He's the guy that you pick up in your fantasy league that you can just throw in there because he's going to get you good points. Not a ton of points, but he's that guy that is always as good to have in there.
Oh, yeah. Now, you can probably tell as we switch over to the defensive side that I was dreaming big when I was doing these hot or cold questions last night. Because question number 3 is, Kwity Paye will break the Colts rookie sack record currently held by Dwight Freeney. That's at 13.5? 13.5. No, it's a 14 even. That's what it was. Robert Mathis currently is currently on the Colts coaching staff. He was the last one to hit 13 plus sacks. That's 19.5 in 2013. Dude was an absolute monster. No rookie has had more than 14 sacks since 2011. That was Aldon Smith. 49ers defense that season was 4th in yards per game, 42 sacks, which was tied for 7th in the league. The Colts had 40 sacks a year ago and were 12th. So you'd think, oh, well, hey, the Colts had just as many sacks almost last year. Could there be enough sacks for Kwity Paye to get there? Well, the Colts are missing 15.5 sacks from that mark. So you think, oh, pencil in Kwity Paye to that 15.5 maybe. They are not exactly.
Good players there.
Right.
Made up for those.
Right, exactly, because you're missing Justin Houston and Denico Autry, who made up those 15.5 sacks. So it's going to be obviously an uphill battle. Kwity Paye has never had more than 6 sacks in a season at Michigan. So that's another thing to throw out there as well. So Kwity Paye has had a very good preseason. And so I'm very hyped to see what he has in store. Like I said, I was dreaming big last night.
Wasn't he the highest graded rookie in the preseason, defensive rookie?
Yeah, I think so. They have him like panning out as one of the better rookies on the defensive side of the ball.
I think highest defensive and second highest overall.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a good season, but just not setting the Dwight Freeney record good. So that's a cold take for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a cold take as well. Do I think he has a chance to push for it? Oh yeah, I do. Just because, look, Kwity Paye didn't have a DeForest Buckner lining up next to him at Michigan, and DeForest Buckner is going to take a lot of the attention, and then Al-Qadim Muhammad, and that defensive line, it's decent, it's good. The opposite end, let's hope. I don't know what to think about the opposite end, but Kwity Paye I think is going to have more opportunity just because of how much attention is going to be put on DeForest Buckner, and he never had that at Michigan. He was always the person that they put the attention on, and also you got to also think the Michigan offense was not that good while he was there, so these teams were running against Michigan a lot. I mean, because they had a lead, and they were trying not to blow the lead. So that's essentially, I think, some of those numbers there. And we're learning more and more that Jim Harbaugh has no clue how to manage a team. So I think he's going to have a much better year than he ever saw in college, which is good. I think he's going to have a heck of a career now.
Yeah.
I was a little down on him. Obviously, you guys all knew what I was saying after the draft, but I feel like this, as from what you're hearing coming out of training camp, is a good thing, is a very good thing. Because typically people don't sugarcoat it in the NFL. And when the past busts that we've had in the first round, you've heard of that. They haven't been living up to a first round pick in training camp. But Kwity Paye has been turning heads, and obviously we've seen it.
Yeah, that's just where the frustration of, like, man, if we could have just paid Danico Autry, if we could have not drafted Kwity Paye to pair up with Autry as opposed to replacing him, and also brought back which they can still do. I mean, theoretically.
I think the idea of him coming back to Indy for him.
I'm sure. And so that's what kind of is rough, because I think it's more of a possibility that Paye could hit that number if Danico Autry was still there or Justin Houston was still there, because you would have even more firepower on that defensive line. But yeah, I think he is going to have a fantastic season, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Final question. The secondary is the biggest defensive liability for the Colts. That is a massively hot take. So I think we're going to be in agreement on all four of these questions, B. Scott. The Colts secondary is ranked 13th by Pro Football Talk. They were 20th against the pass last season, and they did very little to improve for 2021. In the first 7 games of the season, and throughout the course of the season, they played 7 teams who in 2020 were ranked in the top half of the NFL in passing. That's the Bucks, Bills. They played the Texans twice, Raiders, 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks. I know the Texans probably won't be there again this year, but still. The Titans added Julio Jones. The Jags have Trevor Lawrence. So you're talking about, even though they weren't in those 7 that I just mentioned, they got better. As far as you add one of the better receivers of our generations, Julio Jones, to the Titans, you have a much better quarterback for the Jaguars, slinging it around, and Trevor Lawrence. So those teams just get better in terms of passing. So the Colts did very little to improve their pass defense, while other teams in the division did a lot to improve their pass offense. So it's a hot take for me. The secondary, if they can turn it around, I feel better about the Colts, but without a better secondary, it might get to be a rough season at times for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely a hot take. I mean, the safeties, I think, are good. I think that's the strongest unit of the secondary. I mean, Kenny Moore is Kenny Moore. He's a really good corner. Xavier Rhodes, I don't know if he's something, if offseason wasn't too good for him or something, because he was just getting beat left and right in training camp. But that's also could be a sign of that our wide receivers just know how to play against him. I don't know. But Xavier Rhodes is typically a solid player. It's just I don't know what to expect else at corner. I don't know. There's not much depth. I mean, it's concerning. There are some players out there that I feel like they should look at trying to bring in, just to look at them at least to see if there's anything better out there that could at least help us. Which is one of them. That's one of the things that was surprising is that they cut Marvell Tell, and I was like, "Oh, okay. I thought we were high on him. I guess not." Okay, that came out of nowhere. But yeah, the secondary is definitely the weakest. And if there's reasons for the Colts to lose games this year, it's that. You just have to hope that the linebackers and that the front seven can apply enough pressure on the quarterback that the quarterback's going to be forced to make bad throws, which, as long as the secondary is, somewhat within position, they can help there.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does make it very scary, especially for where the Colts get out of the gates from, and that's where we're gonna kind of pivot to now is the schedule for the Colts and their record predictions. In September, the Colts will open against the Seahawks at home on Sunday. Then they will play the Rams and then at the Titans to finish out the month. In October, they're going to go to Miami, to Baltimore. They have the Texans at home. They're at the 49ers and then at home against the Titans. In November, they get the Jets, Jaguars. They go to the Bills, and then they get the Bucs at home, and then they finish off the season December and January at Houston with the Pats at home, at the Cardinals, Raiders at home, and at the Jaguars. So, hey, I mean, it's in the warmer time of the year. They don't have to play. They play the Bills at the end of November. That might be the coldest game that the Colts have to play.
We gotta go. Are we going to Buffalo?
At Buffalo, yeah, in November.
Oh, it's going to be snowing. We always play horribly there.
In November, though. So will it be snowing in November?
I guess we played there in the playoffs, and it was, beautiful.
Yeah. And we were like, oh, man, it's going to be, get the snowplows out, and then it was, some...
There's been several times that we've played there, and it's they're running through a foot of snow.
Right. Well, hey, that would actually bode well for the Colts this year.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's go through for the record prediction. For September, for me, I have the Colts going 1-2. I think they lose to Seattle because I finally bought into the Kool-Aid. See, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. It's Gatorade, but so I guess I'm drinking the Gatorade. No ad. But hey, sponsorship if you want to Gatorade, if you want to hop on board.
Or Kool-Aid.
Or Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
oh no, Mr. Kool-Aid man. Oh no. My mom's gonna be home and she's gonna see that. That's
not good. But yeah, the Colts always lose the season opener, so that's pretty much a given. And then I think they do lose to the Rams for what we've been talking about the secondary. I mean, this is Matthew Stafford. You've got Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, all those big, wide receiver threats for the Rams. And then they do beat the Titans in the last week of September. Frank Reich is 3-0 against the Titans in Nashville as the Colts head coach. So I'm going with the trend there. In October, it's going to be tough. I do have the Colts, though, going 3-2. They proved a lot last season when they had to go through a tough stretch like this, and I think it'll be kind of a similar run for them. They're going to beat the Dolphins. They're going to beat the Texans, and they're going to beat the 49ers. I think the 49ers are the worst of the NFC West teams. I think that's who the Colts are going to beat. They beat the Texans because, obviously, and I just kind of have the Dolphins were kind of like a toss-up for me, and so I went Colts. But I could see the Colts potentially losing there. And then they lose against the Titans at home because Frank Reich is 1-2 at home against the Titans as head coach. In November, the Colts are going to go 2-2. They defeat the Jets and the Jaguars. But I have them losing to the Bills, and I have them losing to Tom Brady. Again, for some of those secondary reasons. And again, I'm just setting myself up for disappointments if the Colts do happen to beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Then it'll be a shocker and a surprise. But I'm just.
Wait, you gotta remember last year, It was in November when Brady and the Buccaneers just got punched in the teeth by the Saints.
Right.
On Monday, or was it Monday night or Sunday night football?
Yeah.
So
and then
you never know.
They got I think beat that same month too by the Chiefs really badly at home. So and that's the thing too. That's again what kind of makes that Buccaneers game a toss up for me, because I like that's it, like Tom Brady now has become like, in a sense, I mean,
It's become beatable.
well, he's become beatable, but like it's almost as if the regular season doesn't matter. It's kind of like LeBron James. Like, okay, he's gonna take his hits in the regular season now. He's not gonna have a 14-2 season, but he's gonna get hot in the postseason. So you never can really tell. And then December, January, I think this will be the month that decides whether or not the Colts go to the playoffs. But ultimately, I think they beat the Texans. Patriots were a toss-up for me, too. I went with them beating the Patriots just because it's at home, and they beat the Raiders at home as well. And then Reich is 0-3 against Jacksonville in Jacksonville. So I have the Colts winning those games, but, I mean, I have them losing to the Jaguars just because of that trend. But that may very well be a game the Colts need to win to make the playoffs. So I have the Colts at 9-8 on the season, which, I mean, that sounds bad. But the Colts' schedule is brutal, and this is the equivalent of like 9-7 last year. So like 9-7 is just kind of an ugly record because it's not a double-digit win season, but it could get you in the playoffs. That's what 9-8 is going to be this year, because I think the AFC, and we'll get to it when we get to record predictions. Like the AFC is good enough to just beat up on each other and make the records not look very good, but you know they're good teams. So I have the Colts at 9-8.
Yeah. I actually have the Colts at 11-6. Not too far off from you.
Yeah.
September, it's so tough when I look at September. Yeah, I think they do lose to Seattle. I think they beat the Rams, and I ultimately think they lose to the Titans in Nashville. It's just going to be Titans are going to be fired up early on. The fan base is going to be fired up, so I got that one. October, I do like the I have them beating the Dolphins. I have them beating the Texans, the 49ers, and then I do have them beating the Titans at home. I think ultimately they'll beat the Titans at home. November, same as you, 2-2, beat the Jets, beat the Jags, lose to the Bills, lose to the Buccaneers. December, 4-1. I have them beating the Texans, Pats, Raiders, and I have them beating the Jags. I mean, like you said, they may still be playing for something more at that point, whether it's a spot in the playoffs, whether it's a division title, I don't know, but I just feel like,
Yeah. Help jog, because you said playing for something, and it jogged something in my memory when I was looking this up last night, like Frank Reich's record against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. How did they lose a game 6-0? What game was that? Because it wasn't the last game of the year. Because I was thinking, was that the game where like Jacoby Brissett and the Colts had just fallen apart? And but I don't think it was. I don't think that was it. Because I think it was like 2018. And I don't think that was the Jacoby Brissett year. The Jacoby Brissett year was 2019.
6-0. Good God. Maybe I turned that one off because it was so boring.
Yeah, I was like, when? I don't remember this. Like, when did they lose 6-0?
Gave up 2 field goals.
Yeah, so I'll look it up to see what it was. But I was like,
yeah, please.
But yeah, so, I think the Colts definitely have upside. I definitely went on the more conservative.
Because not knowing what the Carson Wentz situation is, how many games could he potentially miss for every time he gets dinged for being a close contact with somebody with COVID? How is that going to affect this team? I mean, because then it's the Jacob Eason show. I mean, Sam Ehlinger's injured, so, and then if that ends up happening, I think we could see 2 1,000-yard rushers. But there's a whole lot of question marks that aren't based on things that you can go out and fix with players on the open market. Because it's a lot of unknowns and a lot of, if this happens, how does that affect the rest of this? A lot of ifs.
So that 6-0 game, it was actually an Andrew Luck game, 2018. That was when the Colts fell to 6-6. I think that was the last loss before they went on that like crazy stretch at the end of the year. But yeah, Cody Kessler was the starting quarterback for the. They went on. They won 4 straight after that. So I mean, whatever that loss was. Ignited something in the pit of the chest of the Colts, and they rallied to make the playoffs. So, but yeah, I saw that on the thing, and I was like, "What? How? When did this happen? I don't remember this." And I can tell why, because it was the Colts went on to win 4 straight, and it's one that I'm pretty sure I wanted to wipe clean of my memory forever. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of question marks. I think ultimately, though, I think 9-11 wins is. It may not be what the fan base as a whole is going to be happy with, because they're going to be thinking the Colts are like a dark horse to make a deep playoff run this year, and we'll see. It just all depends on matchups, but I think 9-11 wins is a fair assessment.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's what we think on the Colts. I got them at 9-8. B. Scott has them at 11-6. It'll be an interesting season, of course, that gets all kicked off on Sunday. But before we go too much further and get into the rest of the NFL, let's go ahead and talk about our friends of the show. First, let's talk about Anchor. They are a free podcasting website that allows you to, basically you record your podcast, you upload it to Anchor. You can even do it on your phone, which is awesome. And then you can just upload it straight to there. It'll go through your podcasting feed, your RSS feed, and send it out to Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. It gets you out there. And I can tell you, we were on SoundCloud for the longest time, and you have a certain amount of time you can't go over, which means you can't have like a decent set of archives. You can only really distribute. You have to go and get accepted by all these websites to do your RSS feed, which I'm sure if Anchor does it automatically, it's not that hard to do anyway. But still, it's a lot more of a painstaking process to do it through other websites. But Anchor does a good job and allows you to distribute your podcast a lot easier and a lot better. So we thank them for allowing us to allowing us the platform to have the podcast every week. Also, Eat Lunch and Board Game, one of the podcasts on Anchor as well. My cousin has a board game podcast. It's very good about the connections that playing board games can forge, whether it's like on a work side or just within friends and family. So that's a lot of fun. So go and check that out. It's Eat Lunch and Board Game. And also remember, you can follow us on Twitter at 3C Media Sports. Crash Course Podcast on Facebook if you want to like us over there. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel, 3C Media. Like I said, we'll have that vlog, if you will, from the weekend but the Purdue game on Saturday. That was a lot of fun, so be on the lookout for that. You can also find our YouTube exclusive podcast, the MCT podcast. Those guys are killing it over there. And also, while I'm talking about it, thank you guys all for your support on our college football previews. The Purdue, IU, Notre Dame videos all were very successful on the podcast or on the 3C Media YouTube channel. So thank you guys all for going and showing your love over there. Also, 3C Media on TikTok is having some good feedback as well. So thank you guys all for the support. And then, remember, we stream every week, twitch.tv/CraigCrash. You can come interact with us live. We have guys like Dusty in the chat who asks if he has a crazy question as far as if in college football, why do fans stand when there are seats available during the game? And it's because college football is stinking fun, man.
It's the student section that stands all the time. I guarantee you, Craig was sitting.
Yes, I was sitting through the entire game against Purdue. But yeah, the student section is just going crazy.
The only time he got up was to go buy beer.
Yep, exactly. And to use the restroom from said
He didn't even do that. He just used a bottle.
Yeah, I just was like, you know what? It's called recycling. That's what they mean, right? That's what they want you to do. So we love the interaction with you guys in the chat, and then remember, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard. You can hear the Crash Course podcast. Okay, so let's now get into the rest of the NFL. We're going to do kind of a variation of what we did last week. Last week, we did a over-under as far as, how many college football playoff contenders were from each conference. Now we're going to do, not really an over-under, but we're going to have tiers of wins. So where do we think teams will end up as far as their win totals for the season? So the 4 tiers are 13-plus wins, 9 to 13 wins. So, yes, technically you could have a team in 2 tiers, but what we mean by that is they'll fall between 9 and 13. So I guess it should have been like 12 and a half, but whatever, it's 13. Then between 5 and 9 wins, and then less than 5 wins. And what I want to do, B. Scott, it's similar to what we did with the hot or cold as far as playoff contenders a couple weeks ago, where I'll just kind of read it off and we'll go where we have dissenting arguments. Although I will say this, I'm going to do the 13 plus and the less than 5 first, because I think that's the most consensus we'll have, and then we'll get into the middle tiers because I think that's where there's going to be the most discussion. As far as less than 5 wins, I've got the Jets, Texans, Jaguars, Eagles, Vikings, Lions, Panthers, Falcons. I don't really think any of those teams. Those are more or less a lot of the teams that are going to finish at the bottom of their divisions. Obviously, I've got 2 AFC South teams in there, 2 NFC South teams in there, and 2 NFC North teams in there. So that's going to make up a lot of the bad teams in the NFL. But I just don't see any of those teams being really anything much of a factor this season.
Yeah, I agree with that group. I'm trying to think, is there anybody that could get 5?
Well, I know you were high on the Panthers when we did our playoff contenders.
Yeah. They could as a sleeper, but throw my hat in the ring on somebody. Yeah, I'll go with all of those teams but the Panthers. I'm going to move the Panthers up 1 peg.
I would say if I were to choose, it'd be a flip of the coin. If I had to move one team up a tier, it would be the Jaguars or the Eagles. It'd be a coin flip. And not because I think they're going to be 7.
I'll tell you with the Jags, you got to also remember their running game is going to be non-existent. They lost Travis Etienne to a season-ending injury.
And when I say move them a tier up, I mean they can get to 6 wins. That's not if you were to say.
I would say when I say move a tier up, they're going to win 5.
That's true, yeah, 5.
This is less than 5.
So, yeah, that's true, because that's 4 wins, yeah. So, I think, moving a tier up makes them at 5 wins, so, yeah, that's true. But, yeah, that would be the team I'd be coin flipping between those 2 teams, Eagles and Jaguars. 13 plus, these are, in my opinion, kind of your Super Bowl contenders. And remember, it's going to be 13-4, so it's kind of going to be the equivalent of 12-4 that you saw last year because of the extra game. In that tier, I've got the Bills, Chiefs, Packers, Buccaneers. Those are the only 4 teams I have at 13 plus.
Yeah, I like that grouping as well. The one that I'm a little questionable on is the Packers, but they were right up there last year as well, so I would keep them in there.
Yeah, well, and they play the AFC North and the NFC North this year. So they play out their AFC conference they're going to get the Bengals, they're going to get the Steelers, which that's going to be a toss-up game.
Are looking better this year.
And the Ravens, who are one of those 2 teams will be a win for them. Yeah. If not both. And then they've got their own 2 games against the Lions, 2 games against the Bears, 2 games against the Vikings. So that's where I kind of padded their win total a little bit. Was they're gonna get fat off their conference or off their division and off the division they face from the AFC side of things. So that's where I think they get their wins. Kind of the same with the Buccaneers too, honestly. It's weird. It's
I remember when the NFC South was just absolutely loaded.
It was every other year. This is when you had Matt Ryan when they were gearing up for their Super Bowl run. You had the Panthers who came off the. Oh yeah, was that back-to-back years?
You basically had it was always a 3-team race. It seemed like Panthers, Falcons, and Saints.
And it was the Buccaneers that were the odd team out, and now it's just the Buccaneers. Because I don't really have the Saints doing much this season.
And for some reason, the Saints think the quarterback that was running the Buccaneers into the ground is going to keep them as a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, that's I don't see that happening. But yeah, it's wild because I think, like I was kind of alluding to when we did the Colts, record prediction. I see this as being, the AFC has so many good teams that they're going to beat up on each other. And so their records are not going to look sexy, especially with the extra game. Because like 9-7, you're like, oh, 9-7. It's not a sexy record, but it's still it's a playoff looking record. You add that weird looking 8, and now it's like, that kind of looks gross. Like 10-7 looks a lot better. You're gonna get some 10-7 teams in there. But what's funny is, like, you take any of those teams that are going to be in, like, that second tier, that 9-13 tier, you put them in the NFC, and I think we're talking about them in 13+. Because, I mean, you put the Browns in the NFC North, and you flip-flop the Steelers and Packers. Like, the Steelers are going to win the division. The Steelers would win the NFC North, because the NFC North is garbage, but I don't know that the Packers win the AFC North. So, like, I think there are the talent gap from the top of the AFC and the bottom of the AFC is a lot closer than the talent gap from the top of the NFC to the bottom of the NFC. So, it's going to be, you're going to see it, teams, NFC fans be like, oh, well, what, we missed the playoffs at 9-8 and this team made the playoffs at 9-8. It's like, yeah, because, it's going to be flip-flops. You're going to see teams from the AFC that missed the playoffs, and they're going to be like, what? If we were in the NFC East, we would have won. Like, what do you mean? So yeah, let's go ahead and get into 5-9 wins. My 5-9 win teams, after I just said that they would win the division if they were in the NFC or the NFC North, I've got the Steelers, Bengals, Broncos, Raiders, Giants, Bears, Saints, Seahawks, 49ers. Now, it kind of makes you think that, you're off your rocker because, you think the Steelers are only going to get 5 wins? No, I think they'll be more of that higher tier. I think they'll be like 8-9 or 7-10. I just don't think they're going to be. I think we're due for a drop off, especially because the Steelers have not done a whole lot to fix the issues that they have. And I mean, that became apparent when they were getting drubbed by the Browns in the wild card, and that became prevalent when they were undefeated and then all of a sudden lost like 4 straight or whatever it was. So, I think the Steelers, the Giants, the Bears, the Seahawks, they're going to be on the higher end of that tier, but I just don't feel comfortable giving them like a 9-10 win season.
Yeah. For me in that tier, I actually have the Bengals, Broncos, Raiders, Giants, Bears, Saints, Rams, and 49ers.
I got you. So I think we have the Rams and Seahawks flipped. I think that's what we're gonna ultimately.
And
see.
The Ravens. I have the Ravens in there.
I gotcha. And yeah. So then, and honestly, I mean, I think that because I mean, while I disagree with you because I have the Ravens in the tier up, like I think these are teams that like are coin flips anyway. So like I can.
So this next tier though, you have it listed as 9-13. It should be 10-13 or 10-12.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Is that like I should have like wrote it down differently because I should have done 9-12. So that's basically what it is. It's less than 5, 5-9, 10-12, and then 13+ is what that should have been written down as. So in 9-13, I've got Patriots, Dolphins, Browns, Ravens, Titans, Colts, Chargers, Washington football team, Cowboys, Rams, Cardinals. In that 9-12 range. I think these are going to be teams that are going to be vying for, if not winning their divisions. They're just not. They are Super Bowl contenders in if they get the right matchups, they get hot at the right time. I'm not comfortable saying that they're going to win the whole dang thing yet, but they're going to be dark horses to win the Super Bowl. That's what that tier is to me, and. There's some teams like the Cowboys where I'm like, I feel like something's got to give. They have Dak back, like they should be better, and I feel like every year we're like they should be better and they never are. So we'll see on some of those teams, but I think any of those teams I wouldn't be shocked to make a solid playoff run.
Yeah, actually, I do need to move the Patriots and Dolphins down to the 5-9.
Oh yeah,
I think they could be around the 9 win mark, but 10, that's pushing it for them. So the 10-12, I have the Browns, the Steelers, Titans, Colts, Chargers, Washington, Cowboys, Seahawks, and Cardinals.
Gotcha. So So yeah, I mean, I think, and that kind of illustrates what we think about like how close are. I mean, that's what we've got 4 teams in 13 plus. We've got pretty much the same 7 or 8. So that's 12 teams. So that means between 20 teams, there'll be 20 teams between 5 and 12 wins. Like and I mean that's probably par for the course, but that also feels like there's a lot of teams that'll be on that upper echelon of closer to 12 wins than closer to 6 wins or whatever. So,
right.
So yeah, there's a lot of tough choices when trying to go through our division winners and that kind of thing. Which that's. Do you have anything more to say about the records, or you want to go into division? Okay. Our predictions.
Yeah, I'm ready to go right into the predictions.
All right, so that's what we will swing on into is our division winners. For me, in the East, AFC, I've got the Bills and the Washington football team from the NFC. Those are my division winners. The Bills, I just think it's their time right now. I mean, I just don't think the Patriots and Dolphins are quite on the same level. The Patriots are probably their biggest challenger this season, just because Bill Belichick was like, are they a high caliber free agent? All right, I want to try to sign them.
Which is so uncharacteristic.
Right.
That's so surprising.
And Mac Jones has looked pretty solid in the preseason, so I mean he'll have some, and that's the thing too, because he's a rookie quarterback, and I know he's under Bill Belichick, but remember, Tom Brady was not built in a day. He did not look good those first few seasons, and I think it'll take some time for Mac Jones to be seasoned as well. So I do think it's the Bills division, and then the Washington football team. I mean they just got they've got Fitzmagic, they've got a great defense. I'm just really high on them. I think they're going to have a good season. I think they're doing things the right way. They've got Riverboat Ron at the helm. And so I think the Washington football team are going to be representatives from the NFC East.
Yeah, so for me, I have my East division winners as the Bills as well. I think this is the Bills and everybody else is looking up at them, to be honest. And then in the NFC East, the winner of who's got to take it, I'm going with the Cowboys. The Cowboys look like they're going to be healthy. Ezekiel Elliott looks like he's, kind of figured out his head games that he had going on. He's gotten a little bit better shape. I just feel like they're set up more to have some sort of success than Washington is. I need to see Washington first before.
Which is wild, because I feel the same about the Cowboys in the sense that I feel like I've picked them every year to win the NFC East, and they either crawl to the NFC East title or they lose altogether.
It's going to be the Giants then.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wanted to pick the Giants really badly, and I couldn't make it make sense in my head.
It's a make or break year this year for the Giants with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. You hate to say it, but it is a make or break year for them.
Yeah. On the north side of things, for the AFC, I've got the Cleveland Browns. It is their time. We saw that by them drubbing the Steelers in the first round, and we almost saw that in them going into Kansas City and nearly knocking off the Chiefs. I understand Chad Henne was the quarterback for the second half of that game, but still, they put on a show. So I think it is the Browns' time. In the NFC, I'm going with the Packers. There's really not any other team. The Vikings, Lions, and Bears are all down. I think the Bears are going to be close. The Bears are going to be their biggest challenger. They're going to be on the precipice of potentially making the playoffs. Because I think Justin Fields is going to have a good year. Because I think the Bears finally have a franchise quarterback, which is nice, which I'm excited to see. But yeah, it's going to be the Packers division to lose.
Yeah, I agree. Browns and Packers. I mean, the Browns, eventually it's got to click for them fully, and it looks like it may be, so that's good. And the Packers, I just hope they can get over the drama of the Aaron Rodgers situation. I mean, he's just going to go out there and do what he does, regardless.
Right. Well, the thing that'll cure it, what'll cure everything is winning. As awkward as it might be in the locker room, once they start winning and once it becomes clear they're gearing up for a playoff run, I think that'll be all forgotten. Now, what'll be the bigger blow up is if they make it to the Afc Championship game and lose again.
That too. But that's very possible. It's very possible.
Oh yeah. For the South, AFC, I've got the Titans. They just did more to improve in the offseason than the Colts did. The Colts had a good team and a good roster, but with as good as the team is that they're running back, and what they've done, getting Wentz, getting Kwity Paye in the draft, those are all good moves. But I mean, to steal away Danico Autry, to add Julio Jones, I mean, just a lot better improvements the Titans made, and so I think. The fact that, we talked about how bad the Colts secondary is, which is going to be pivotal in those games against the Titans. So I've got Tennessee winning there. And what do you want to add, B. Scott?
I was just going to say, and also the fact the Colts lost one of their more underrated linebackers than Anthony Walker.
Right.
They said, we'd rather have Bobby Okereke. Okay.
Yeah. And then on the NFC side of things, I've got the Buccaneers again for kind of see the argument for the Packers, whereas there's not anyone else really in that division. The Saints are going to take a step back this year with Jameis. The Panthers, I'll believe it when I see it, and then the Falcons, the Falcons just don't make sense to me because they should, I feel like, be better than they are. And losing Julio Jones, I think, is going to be... they have Kyle Pitts, yes, but I think not having Julio Jones... If they had that tandem, then I might be like, oh, well, dark horse to potentially, not necessarily take the NFC South, but potentially at least make the playoffs.
I'll tell you what, them absolutely getting embarrassed by the Patriots or losing that huge lead to the Patriots in the Super Bowl has put that franchise in a tailspin.
Oh yeah. They have not been. They've been a shock. I'd be interested to know their record since losing that game because I don't think they made the playoffs the following year.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I'd be interested to know their record. Probably 3-28 to be honest. No, they won more than that. So who do you have? You have the Titans and Buccaneers too.
Titans and Buccaneers as well. I mean, we've gone over with the Colts. The secondary is a big glaring issue, I think, for the Colts, and with the addition of Julio Jones, it's gonna be tough because not only do you have to now try to stop the Titans, they have two good wide receivers. You also still got to remember you got to stop Derrick Henry as well. So that's just going to be a very good team.
Yeah. And then finally out west, Chiefs. See the reason for the Buccaneers and the Packers.
This is why off air I said going to be very similar to like the NBA.
Yeah, but here's what I will say too, though. I think the Chargers are going to be
college.
Chargers are going to be a better team. I think they're going to be a contender in the playoff hunt. The Broncos are improved, and the Raiders are kind of sneaky good. So like. As far as like sneaky, spoiler team. So like, it's not a cakewalk for the Chiefs, and I do think the Chiefs, spoiler for what we're about to do in playoff predictions. Like, I do have the Chiefs taking a step back, not because I think they're like when I say step back, it means not make the Super Bowl. Like when you're step back for a team is you just don't make the Super Bowl, which can be said about 30 other teams. Like that's not that big of a deal. But I think there's a down year coming, and like I said, their down year is just not making the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying they're gonna go like 5 and whatever, but like I think they're gonna have a good season. I just don't know, but I think they've got a lot more challengers. I don't think it's a cakewalk. They're gonna win the AFC West, but it's gonna be more of a challenge, is what I'm getting to, right. Essentially. And then as far as the NFC, I've got the Rams. That's the best division in football. You get the 49ers, Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks. It's going to be a dogfight, and I just have the Rams coming out on top. I think Matthew Stafford makes the difference there.
I got the Chiefs in the AFC West. In the NFC West, I actually have the Cardinals. I think they're going to take a huge step forward. It was really a toss-up for me. I'm not as high on the Rams as you are. Honestly, I think the Seahawks are right there. Honestly, I could see all 4 of those teams though making the playoffs.
Which is possible now, which is wild.
I would not be the least bit surprised.
That would mean that there would be no other wild card teams. But like honestly, in the NFC, like that's possible. Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe the team that wins, or the team that doesn't win the NFC East, because like there's not a second team in the NFC South. There's not a second team in the NFC North.
Who's the NFC East matched up with?
Ooh, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember totally. Yeah. I'll go ahead while you're doing that. I'm going to go ahead and give you my wild card teams. From the AFC, I've got the Ravens, Colts, Patriots. I got the Colts in the playoffs. I've got the Patriots back in the playoffs. I think those, they've done enough to improve. And then I have the Ravens. I think the Ravens, I know they've lost, they've lost J.K. Dobbins. They've lost some of their talent on the offensive side of the football. But I think they're going to have a good year again. And then in the NFC, I've got my wildcard teams as the Cardinals, Cowboys, and Seahawks. I think the NFC West gets 3 of their 4 teams in, although, like you said, I think it's a possibility that you could see all 4 teams getting in. I think, ultimately, though, in that situation, though, I think the Cowboys just have a little bit more set up than, like, the 49ers would. So, like, that would be kind of your only toss-up. Like, if you took the Cowboys out, put the 49ers or Bears in, like, I wouldn't bat an eye. But I just think ultimately between those 3 teams, it's the Cowboys. And there's no other team that I'd be willing to, like, I'm willing to maybe harbor an argument for the Bears. I'd be willing to listen to the Giants potentially because they did a lot to improve their offense and they have a good defense. But yeah, I mean it's not without outside of the realm of possibility to see all 4 NFC West teams in there.
So NFC East, they're matched up with the AFC West.
Okay, so that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So,
on that note, here are my wildcard teams. In the AFC, I have the Steelers, the Colts, and the Patriots. I like the Patriots. I think they're gonna figure it out. The thing that worries me about them, though, is the lack of a run game. I don't know why they decided, like, we're going to trade Sony Michel away. Like,
because it's Bill Belichick, and he's like, it doesn't matter. Running backs don't matter. I'm just going to pick a random name out of a hat, and that's going to be my feature back every week.
That's true. It's the Patriots and Bill Belichick. I guess this could be a prove-it type season for him. Like, it wasn't just Tom Brady that won them those Super Bowls. It was also him involved. But if they go out and fail again, it's like, oh, well, Bill, guess what? It was more Tom than you. Hate to break it to you. But I think the I have the Steelers. Yeah. Steelers, Colts, and Patriots. I think the Steelers are going to put it together. I really do. Big Ben looked in the preseason, looked better than he did all of last year. I think he's healthy. And I think a lot of the things that were ailing them last year was just losing. And like you said, winning cures all. And I think that could be the case for them this year. And on the NFC side of things, I actually do have the Rams, and the Seahawks, and oh crap, it just went blank. My mind went blank.
Cowboys, Giants, 49ers, Bears, Saints.
Yeah.
Lions, Vikings.
God, no, I had another NFC West team.
49ers? That's the only other team.
No.
You have the Cardinals winning the division, so if you have the Rams and the Seahawks in there, then you'd have the 49ers.
Okay, yeah. It's been a long weekend.
Yeah.
A lot of up till 3 a.m.s, and yeah. I am going to put the Cowboys in there as well. I'm just swapping out the Rams and the Cardinals from what you had, essentially. Oh, wait. I had the Cow. This is why, Brandon, you need to write out your notes.
That's why I think you're on the Google Doc. Like, you can add to the Google Doc, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
If you're not, then
I had the Cowboys winning the division.
That's right. I think that's what you said. I thought.
Yeah. So
so you can't have the Cowboys in the. Okay, so I see what you're saying.
I'm throwing the Bears in there because I feel like they're going to eventually realize that Andy Dalton's not their starter and they need to start Justin Fields.
Hey, that's okay. I at one point I realized I was like, when I was writing out my team names for the tiers, I had the Browns twice at one point. I was like, why? There's only there's 4 teams left. Why are there only 3 spots? And I was like, oh, because I have the Browns.
We're just lucky that I wasn't naming off college teams.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, it was definitely. We're still recovering from Saturday.
I put Alabama in the 13+ category.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into our playoff predictions. So what we'll do, I'll do AFC, then B Scott will do AFC, then I'll do NFC, B Scott will do NFC, and then we'll do our Super Bowl. So for me, I have got in the AFC Wildcard Weekend. Remember, seeding matters because if you have any upsets, they will play the higher seed and so on and so forth, and bye weeks and all that stuff. So for me, Bills have the 1 seed. They get the first round bye. It'll be the 2-seeded Chiefs against the 7-seeded Patriots, the 3-seeded Browns against the 6-seeded Colts, and the 4th-seeded Titans against the 5th-seeded Ravens. And it's going to be all chalk. I have the Chiefs beating the Patriots. I think the Pats are maybe like another year or 2 from getting back into that AFC contention. And plus, I don't expect first ever playoff experience for Mac Jones. He goes into Arrowhead and beats the two-time defending AFC champions. So that'll be a tough task. Browns and Colts, these 2 teams played last year. The Browns beat them, and these Browns have Baker Mayfield. They've got Jarvis Landry. They've got Odell Beckham. If they need all of them healthy, obviously, and that's what this assumption is. We talked about the secondary for the Colts, and I think the Browns are just going to be slightly better. The Browns are poised for a deep run, and then Titans and Ravens. I'm going Titans. They made the right steps to improve, so they end up winning. Divisional round, you're going to have the Bills against the Titans and the Browns against the Chiefs. I've got the Bills over the Titans. I think that's where the road ends for Tennessee. I think the Bills have the defense to match up with what the Titans have offensively. And then I think in the battle, if you were to decide based on quarterbacks, I think you would give it slightly to Josh Allen before you would give it to Ryan Tannehill. And then, of course, the Bills, it's going to be, we assume, unless it's like last year where it's beautiful, it could be a blustery day, which, obviously lends itself to the run game. But I do think the Bills are just a little bit better. So they advance to their 2nd straight AFC Championship game. And then Browns and Chiefs. I mentioned it in the beginning that the Browns went into Kansas City and nearly knocked off the Chiefs last year. Now, I get that Chad Henne was in the game for the Chiefs for a bulk of that second half with Patrick Mahomes injured. But people forget that in that game, the Browns were holding their own with the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. So, like I said before, I think the Chiefs are due for a step back. Now, look, I realized that on this show, I said Shohei Ohtani is supposed to pick one between batting and hitting. He's not going to be good at both. Proved me wrong. I said Patrick Mahomes isn't going to be that good. When's the last quarterback from Texas Tech been good in the NFL? He's not. He's been sensational. I have said a lot of wrong things on this show, so I very well could be wrong again. We said there was going to be chaos in the NCAA tournament, and it was the 1 versus the 2. As far as top 2 teams in the country. So we are wrong sometimes, and I could be wrong about the Chiefs here too.
You're wrong a lot of the time.
So I do think the Chiefs, though, are due for just a slight step backwards. So I've got my AFC Championship game as the Bills and the Browns. Who's going to win? Do the Browns finally go to the Super Bowl? Or do the Bills make a return trip for their 5th time in franchise history? I've got the Bills winning the AFC and making a trip to the Super Bowl. But who will they face, B. Scott, from the NFC? We'll have to find out. Who is your AFC?
All right, so I'm just going to give you the teams that I think are going to advance from Wildcard Weekend. Obviously, my number 1 seed, I actually am going to have the Titans as my 1 seed. I just think that aerial attack and that ground game of the Titans is just going to be way too good. So I believe that the Titans will have the bye. Sorry, the dogs are coming to bed, and so it sounds like a herd of buffalo coming through. So the teams that I have advancing out of Wildcard Weekend, I have same as you. I have the Chiefs, the Browns, and the Titans advancing from Wildcard Weekend. I don't.
If the Titans are the 1 seed, they can't advance out of Wildcard Weekend.
See, the Buffalo herd.
But that's funny because that should have jogged your memory. That was the team you left out. That's the team I had on bye. Yeah. So
I have the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Browns advancing. The Titans are going to advance too because guess what? They have the bye.
They technically have to advance. Yes.
I did not screw up technically. Okay, on to the divisional round. Basically from there, I'm setting up an AFC Championship game of the Titans versus the Bills. I think this is going to be ultimately that's who the Titans or the Bills. I have them advancing. AFC Championship game. This is going to be a fun AFC Championship game, in my opinion. I feel like the Bills' defense is more of an underrated squad, and I think I don't know. It's a tough one, but I do have the Titans advancing to the Super Bowl this year. Maybe I'm a little bit more high on the addition of Julio Jones. I don't think people truly realize. I mean,
and it's not just
he doesn't even have to have a Pro Bowl season. It's just the amount of attention that teams are now going to have to put on that. Where before they had to stack the box to stop Derrick Henry. Now they can't stack the box because they can't leave Julio in one-on-one situations. But then because you're not stacking the box, guess what? Derrick Henry is going to go off.
Right.
It's pick your poison.
And I like like that logic because, are the 2021 Titans that different from the 2016, 17, whatever year that was Falcons? Like, they have Julio Jones. They've got a capable quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. They've got other weapons, like they've got A.J. Brown to command the football. They've got a good running game, which it was Devonta Freeman for that Falcons team. It was Derrick Henry, who's better than Devonta Freeman. The only thing you're missing is Jonnu Smith. Their tight end. I don't know who's going to step in there, but that's not like your biggest worry. So and Mike Vrabel's done a good job as head coach. So that's not a bad pick. Like that, I think that's that I could see that happening.
Yeah, this is a team that's just set. Now defensively is where they could struggle.
Yeah,
to be honest, and that's where a team like Indianapolis that can have a good run game could pull an upset over a Titans a couple times in the season, and that would shake things up significantly in my pecking order, because I feel like that's the same formula to also beating the Chiefs. Now, obviously, the Chiefs are not a grounded, pound it down your throat quite as much as the Titans are. They're more fast-paced aerial assault, but a team like the Colts is somebody that is set up to beat somebody like the Titans because the best way to beat them is keep them off the field, keep the offense off the field, because that's going to be their strength, is their offense. Their defense, it's not anything to truly write home about, but that offense can do it. It's going to, this is going to be it's a scary thought trying to stop that team.
Oh, yeah.
Offensively.
Switching gears to the NFC Wildcard Weekend for me. I've got the Packers as the 1 seed. They get the bye. They're just, again, they kind of have that cushy season against both North divisions, so they're going to ride that to the division championship, or the being the best team in the NFC. Then you're going to have the 2-seeded Buccaneers against the 7-seeded Seahawks, the 3-seeded Rams against the 6-seeded Cowboys, and the 4th-seeded Cardinals against the 5th-seeded Washington football team. The 4th-seeded Washington football team against the 5th-seeded Cardinals. I'm reading it in the order that I have them going, so spoiler alert, Cardinals are going to beat the Washington football team, the 5 over the 4. Cardinals beat Washington to advance to the second round. The Rams beat the Cowboys and the Buccaneers over the Seahawks. Again, the Buccaneers, Tom Brady in the playoffs against Seattle. It's going to be in Tampa Bay. If it was in Seattle, I might choose an upset there, but I just think the Buccaneers are better this season. We saw what the Rams were able to go in and do against the Seahawks in the playoffs last year. The Rams against the Cowboys, I think the Rams just have more firepower and a better defense to shut down the Cowboys. And then, the Cardinals, I think, are just going to be, that NFC West this season is going to be crazy. That's going to set up a divisional round between the Packers and the Cardinals and the Buccaneers against the Rams. And I've got upset specials everywhere. The Cardinals upend the Packers in Lambeau. What are they doing? It's the NFC West team in the frozen tundra going in. Kyler Murray slinging the ball over the field. DeAndre Hopkins in the closing seconds. J.J. Watt just running down Aaron Rodgers. As long as he's healthy, we'll see. So the Cardinals advance the NFC Championship game. The team they play will be the Rams. This is a team that I think matches up very well.
So high on them.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I think it's Matthew. I mean, you've got a defense that matches up well with the Buccaneers. Because that's the thing, too, you got to remember. How do you match up with the team you play against? And the Rams defense and the Buccaneers defense are very comparable. You've got, the Rams, I mean, you give the quarterback edge to Tom Brady in the playoffs, but still, I mean, you finally have a better quarterback, Matthew Stafford. You've got all these receivers. You've got a good defense. Like, this Rams team is going to be improved. And so I think, and remember, I was going to say, I just, even though I'm, saying Tom Brady in the playoffs, I do have them losing. Just, I don't know. I think they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the Super Bowl every year that Tom Brady is there. Now, I say that, and they absolutely will. But we'll see. But yeah, so I've got the Rams match up well with the Buccaneers, so the Rams advance. And then Rams against Cardinals, NFC Championship game, playing in their home stadium. The second consecutive team to play in the Super Bowl at their own stadium. The Rams advance to the Super Bowl to play the Bills. In an NFC West showcase, the Rams win. It'll be Rams-Bills SoFi Field on my birthday weekend. So that'll be pretty sick when that happens.
There we go. All right, same as like I did in the AFC. I do have the Packers with the bye. I will go ahead and put that out there. I think it's going to be pretty simple because like you said, I think you said it off air. Tom Brady is kind of like now like LeBron James. And in the set fact that the regular season just doesn't matter. He's going to do enough to get to the postseason, and that's when it really turns on. Now, obviously, you do want to have home field advantage. You want to have home. You want to be able to play at home more than not, and that takes a little bit more needing to handle the regular season than it does in the NBA. So the teams I have advancing, obviously the Packers with the bye, but very similar to you. I have. Actually, I have the Bucks. I have the Bucks, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals advancing from Wildcard Weekend. So then on to the divisional round. My mind is like, I'm serious. My mind is not connecting tonight. On the divisional round side of things, I actually have the Cardinals and the Packers both advancing. Honestly, I believe that Cardinals defense is better than you think, and Aaron Rodgers is going to do everything he can to try to win himself a Super Bowl and just walk out of Green Bay with the double single barrel salute. If that makes sense. Yeah, and I think he's going to really try that. So the NFC Championship game, this could be fun. The older guy at quarterback and Aaron Rodgers, and you got Kyler Murray, the young, exciting player in the Cardinals. It's gonna be a tough matchup. I want to go with the Packers, I really do, just because of Aaron Rodgers, but ultimately, I think the defense of Arizona is what wins this for them. So I'm gonna. It's tough. I'm going with the Cardinals. Why not? Why not? I'm going with the Cardinals to advance to the Super Bowl and face off against the Tennessee Titans.
That would be a wild Super Bowl. I'm here for it.
I think that would be the NFL's worst nightmare. No, they're not like the NBA. They actually like it when all their teams succeed.
So yeah, Super Bowl, what is it this year? 55? 54?
No, 56.
56.
LVI?
Yeah.
So if the I is after...
Yeah, because LIV is 4. So yeah, it'd be LVI is 5. Okay. LV is 5. Okay, yeah, so 56. You're right. Roman numerals are hard. They confuse me.
They don't teach those in school.
They need to specifically for the Super Bowl.
Something you should learn, like if you're studying sports journalism.
You know what? You know? It's Super Bowl Levi. Super Bowl Levi. That's where I'm leaving it at. Levi. Yeah. It's not it.
No, it can't be in Levi Stadium.
No, exactly. So Super Bowl Levi. It is going to be. I've got the Bills. I've got the Rams. 2 good defenses, 2 good quarterbacks, winning it all. Because this is the tough thing. Because you're either going to pick, like I'm picking between a team in the Bills who's went 4 times and didn't win, against the Rams who've only won 1 Super Bowl. You've got the Cardinals and Titans. Neither franchises won a Super Bowl. I mean, even if you had the Packers getting there, like they only have been to the Super Bowl once under Aaron Rodgers. So you're picking something that's either doesn't happen very often or it hasn't happened in a long time. So it's kind of tough to piece through. I'm going Bills over Rams in the Super Bowl. The Bills beating the Rams on their home turf to win Super Bowl 56. Josh Allen completes an amazing season for Buffalo's Stephon Diggs. You have a tremendous game, and the Buffalo Bills are your 2021 Super Bowl champions.
So for me, I have the Cardinals and the Titans. This is going to be a fun game of, whose strength is going to hold up better. But ultimately, I feel like the Cardinals are going to come out on top because that defense of the Cardinals is going to do enough to slow down the Titans' offense. And the Titans' offense, when I keep talking about them, I keep saying they're going to be tough to stop. They're going to be tough to stop. It's because they're so big, they're so strong. They're going to be a physical force. They're going to meet up with an offense that's going to be totally different. Another offense that's going to spread you out, and they are just going to air it out all over the place. And I think eventually that Tennessee Titans offense, they're gonna have to get away from the ground and pound of Derrick Henry because they need to be able to keep up essentially with that Arizona offense as well. I mean, that Arizona offense, probably one of the most underrated in my opinion.
All right, so you've got the Arizona Cardinals winning the Super Bowl. I've got the Bills winning the Super Bowl. So if those two things or one of those two things happens, I mean, that's the first time any of those franchises had won, and that would be fantastic. So going to be a wild season. Excited for it. Before we go, we're going to quickly go through our awards predictions.
This is the toughest. These are so tough.
We're going to go MVP, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, offensive rookie, and defensive rookie of the year. So quickly, I'll give mine, then you give yours, B. Scott. We won't spend a ton of time on this. But for me, MVP, Josh Allen. I mean, if he's got the team rolling like I think he will, number 1 team in the AFC, pitching and catching to Stephon Diggs. We kind of saw flashes of what MVP Josh Allen could look like at the beginning of last season. I think this season he continues that on throughout the course of the season, especially with the taste of a being on the precipice of a Super Bowl last year. I think he's going to come out and have a good season again this year. So he is my MVP winner. Offensive player of the year, I have Travis Kelce. The reason why I have Travis Kelce is I think he's going to have a big year for the Chiefs, but also, have they done that before? Have they given the MVP to a quarterback and then given the offensive player of the year to a quarterback?
Oh, I think so.
I mean, probably, but that seems like a little redundant. So that's why I was like, who do I think is going to be the best player on the Chiefs this year? That's not Patrick Mahomes.
Well,
Travis Kelce.
Kind of like the year Ron. Well, no, that was a running back and a quarterback. But, Ron Dane won the Heisman Trophy, and then Drew Brees won the Maxwell Award for the best offensive player in college football.
Right. Yeah. So I don't.
Okay.
Right. So I don't know too much what to make of it, but hey, I throwing it around there, just mixing it up. Tight end wins Offensive Player of the Year. I don't know when the last time that's happened. Defensive Player of the Year, I've got Jalen Ramsey. Again, if this Rams team is Super Bowl caliber, NFC West winning, especially if he's the best defensive player on the Rams, who have to go through that gauntlet of the NFC West, and then go through the gauntlet that will be the playoffs. I mean, I think Jalen Ramsey's poised for a good year. Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. These are the two most fun picks for me. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I've got Justin Fields. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. He's going to be throwing to Allen Robinson. He's got to have, Chicago, no matter what he does, Chicago is going to be excited and cheering that they've got a quarterback for the first time in ever. Excuse me. So I think he's going to have a big year. Expectations aren't super high for them to go much of anywhere, so I think he's going to be poised to have a good year. And then Defensive Rookie of the Year, I have Kwity Paye. I think he's going to have a big year for the Colts and be in that running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. So that's who I have. I know there's other awards out there as well. Comeback Player of the Year, which I think Comeback Player of the Year could maybe be Julio Jones. Could you? I don't know.
No, he played all year.
Did he play all year last year?
Yeah, he torched he was the only reason why the Falcons almost beat the Colts last year.
Did the Colts play the?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't play Tom Brady last year, so they didn't play the NFC South, so they couldn't have.
I'm pretty sure they played the Falcons last year.
I think maybe it might have been the year before.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, it would have been 2019 because that's when the Colts had that good start, and then they got torched by the Saints when they were
right. So we all Brissett actually is a good quarterback.
Right. So yeah, those are my awards winners.
Okay, for me, MVP. This one's always so tough because it never goes to exactly who you think it really should. I'm gonna go Aaron Rodgers because I think he's gonna have a lot to prove, and yeah, why not? Offensive Player of the Year. I'm going to go Derrick Henry. I've been really high on him. I think he has an opportunity to do it. Defensive Player of the Year. You know what? I'm going to say the man finally gets some respect. Darius Leonard.
There we go. I like that.
Why not? That defense, that front seven has to play special, and he has the opportunity to do it. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. This one's tough for me. I'm going to go with Justin Fields as well, but I could honestly see a player, especially if they make a run to the Super Bowl, like I have them doing, but a player like Rondale Moore for the Cardinals. Just because he's going to be a gadget player, utility type.
Now guy. I know why you have the Cardinals winning the Super Bowl. It's because of Rondale Moore.
No, not because of him. And then Defensive Rookie of the Year. I am going to go Kwity Paye as well, just because he graded out as the highest defensive rookie in the preseason. That doesn't say much, but I don't know who else. I'm really not sure who else to pick.
Yeah,
because he's going to be a starter from day one. That's the thing. So yeah, those are my picks. Comeback player. I don't even know.
You technically don't have to pick it because I just threw Julio out there, but I don't think he counts.
Yeah.
Because all I'm thinking of is a player that was kind of down and out and then has a big year. But
Deshaun Watson.
Oh my Jesus Christ. Okay, so real quick, actually no. Along the lines of Houston, do you think who's been the Houston quarterback through the preseason?
I don't know.
Has it been Deshaun?
I honestly don't pay that much attention
to Jackson.
No,
it's not been Deshaun Jackson. But no.
Carson Wentz, Comeback Player of the Year.
Ooh, okay, I like that. That's good.
That's a good. I think that could be a good one.
But no, because I was gonna say, could Houston be a potential landing spot for Cam?
Yeah.
Because if Deshaun Watson doesn't play, which I literally don't know who's played for the Texans in the preseason this year.
I'll tell you what, eventually if Carson Wentz keeps having to go on the COVID reserve list or injury or whatever for him, if Cam's out there, I think the Colts need to at least kick the tires on that.
Yeah, true.
Especially if they're like in the thick of it and you're not 100% sold that Jacob Eason is ready to, step in the ring and box with the big boys yet. But
right.
I don't know.
Well, that about wraps it up tonight for our NFL special. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Remember, you can like us on Facebook, Crash Course Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at 3C Media Sports. Go to our YouTube channel. We're going to have the Purdue vlog. We're going to have the MCT podcast. You're going to see this podcast and a whole lot more. Again, thank you guys all for the love on the YouTube channel over the past week and beyond. That's been awesome. 3C Media on YouTube. Also 3C Media on TikTok if you want to follow over there. Got some TikTok-only content prepared for this week, so be on the lookout for that. Remember, you can watch live every week, twitch.tv/CraigCrash. You can watch us stream live every week, the podcast, if you want to interact with us. Today we had Dusty in chat. We had Haas with the follow. Everybody for hanging out. We really appreciate it. And then remember that you can go listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard. You can hear the Crash Course Podcast. B. Scott, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Brandon_Scott87.
And then remember, you can also follow me on Twitter at Crash Course FM. If you want to go follow over there. So that will do it. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Colts' first game. We're going to be talking about, it's the first couple of weeks of the college football season because we have some stuff to bring up to speed on as far as the Big 12 is concerned, that kind of thing. So a lot still to talk about football-wise. The football coverage is just getting started. Very excited for that season to start. It's going to be a lot of fun, but until then, have a good one, everybody.